Fuck this shit, I'm out. Fuck this shit, I'm out. No thanks. Don't mind me, I'ma just grab my stuff and leave. Excuse me, please. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Nope. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Alright then. I don't know what the fuck just happened, but I don't really care. I'ma get
Hey, I'm John.
I'm John.
We're here to review the new 2017 horror indie film, The Void. So The Void follows this police officer, and he finds this really weird coked out dude in the side of the road. Looks like he's injured. Brings him into a hospital, and then really weird ritualistic thing-inspired things happen from there.
Big mistake.
And guys,
Things get real crazy real fast.
I heard a lot of buzz about this movie. It was getting positive media buzz at some horror film festivals and stuff. I heard it was like, oh, it's the next thing. Right. It brings body horror to a new level.
I heard a lot about it, like, oh, it brings B-movies back. Like, just the B-movie genre is coming back, starting with The Void.
All right.
Spoiler alert,
It doesn't. This movie literally pushes it right back into the void because, unfortunately, this is just a really disappointing film.
It seemed like it was just grasping at attempts to be the next thing or to bring the B-movie genre back. Right. And it really just never reached that point.
You know how everyone gives Zack Snyder for crap for being too style over substance? Mm-hmm. This movie was like the epitome of that.
Yeah, style over substance is
over
a phrase I hear thrown around a lot. This is one of the most style over substance movies I've ever seen. Right. This movie's very clearly going for the kind of throwback body horror, like you mentioned, Jonathan, The Thing, 80s vibe, and it really just never reaches that point for me.
Really, what I think it was is that the director like played Silent Hill one night and was like, you know what, I want to do something like that, except not as good. And then he watched The Mist and he was like, I really want to do something like that, except not as good. Because they're clearly inspiration from so many different things and so many different movies and mediums that he just wanted to put it all together, especially Silent Hill's like altered dimensional, ritualistic things, and it just didn't work out in the way that he wanted.
I want to say the biggest issue with this film is its plot and its script. It's really all over the place. It's really thinly written. You have to pay very close attention to even get a grasp of what's going on in the first place.
There are like two separate storylines about birthing daughters through like elder gods, which is cool.
This movie could have been like Call of Cthulhu 3D.
Yeah, it just seems really so underdeveloped overall. Like, it's clearly driving at these themes of like, you know, the supernatural in the sense of like birth and death and rebirth and life and that type of thing.
And they'll hammer it over your head too.
But it just never seems developed. Like, you never really quite know exactly how they're going for it, and it never is really impactful. And even the story, it's not even as confusing because you can understand what's happening, but you just don't care. It's just not impactful, really.
Right, and you know, the one pro of this movie is that it does have some good prosthetics.
Yeah.
Now, people are comparing it to The Thing. It's nowhere near as good as The Thing. Nowhere near as impressive. And that being said, The Thing did have a much bigger budget. Mm-hmm. Of course, I mean, it was, I guess, considered to be like a tentpole project of the time. I think it bombed, actually, when it first came out.
Did it really?
That it wasn't that well received. But anyways, that movie had a much bigger budget for its time, and this movie has a really low budget, so it's understandable that they couldn't do some of the animatronics up to that standard. But yet again, I don't understand why people are making a big deal about it. You know, they really were just using prosthetics because that's the only thing they could use.
You know, this is a style over substance movie, and I say that as a bad thing, but I will say there are some really good stylish moments in this movie. I think I liked it a little more than you guys. There were some moments, specifically one thing I think they got really creative with was the lighting. Mm-hmm. I know it's kind of an interesting thing to say, but they would always... The lighting was very dim and sparse in a lot of ways. In some places it wasn't. But I created this just vibe of a rough night and the intensity of everything. One thing they did a lot was focused on one light source illuminating the entire scene and use that to make it much more intense or interesting. Mm-hmm. And I do think there were a lot of moments just in the direction and cinematography in general that were intense and did capture that very like 80s throwback body horror vibe. But overall it was not enough to carry the movie for me, and it still lost me about halfway through.
You know, I think the main thing to take away from this pro-wise is I think aesthetically, visually, in that department, I think they got a lot of things right. Like you said, they did a lot of great things with the lighting. I think they had a lot of great imagery, so maybe it didn't make sense all the time.
A lot of good art direction.
Or the art direction, yes. Especially the art direction on the monsters that we see here. Aesthetically, everything's really cool. I like the town that they had, the environment that they're exploring is all really well done. The set design is really well. You can tell that they put effort into making these sets, I think.
They wrote a script simply to show cool stuff.
Yeah,
That's it. There was
the
just an
story
excuse
seems
to
like
show
an
something.
excuse to do cool things.
Well, like I said,
And
I
it
think
shows.
the directors were inspired by a lot of different mediums, and they tried to put all the best of those things together.
Just didn't
Unfortunately,
work.
the way that they put them together didn't quite fit. But what you ended up with was still at least some grotesque, pretty picture to look at.
This movie feels like it's riding the wave of It Follows to me. Like
A
it
little
really
bit.
saw the hype and how amazing It Follows was, and just tried to ride that wave.
I
and
mean,
be
you
a carbon
say
copy
you
of
say
that.
it rides that wave, but that was 2 years ago.
I mean, I think there is. I'm getting more
Right
80s
now-
inspired movies now, and it's riding that
It's
wave.
not even that. As of recently, we're getting a lot of indie horror movies that have been really good. We're kind of getting into a horror renaissance
Things like Don't
a
Breathe,
little bit. Things
Lights
like Don't
Out.
Breathe, The Witch,
Yeah.
which was great. And this movie just didn't fit into that category.
It's riding
although
that wave.
It was definitely, it was an attempt.
Yeah.
It was an attempt.
All right.
So, guys, all in all, what did you guys think of The Void? John?
The Void, I had high expectations going in, and I think it started off really strong, but the story fell apart for me. It was thinly written with pretty poor acting, by the way. I don't think we talked about that. The acting's not terrible, but it's pretty subpar most of the time. Story seemed very underdeveloped and thinly written, and even though there was a lot of good stuff I liked with the visuals in terms of the art design and the lighting and everything, nothing was really particularly memorable or impressive. So overall, I'm going to say, for The Void, I'll say 2.5 out of 5 for this one.
Okay. Guys, I thought The Void was okay. I wanted to love it. I was really excited to see this film, but it just disappointed me. There was nothing in the story department, and the only thing this movie had to offer was just gore, and the gore was good. It wasn't very memorable, but it was cool to see, I guess. So overall, I'm going to go ahead and give The Void a 2 out of 5 stars.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty much the same there with you guys. I really enjoyed looking at this movie, not so much paying attention to it, because once you start paying attention to it, you start noticing plots about, like I said, 2 different stories about birthing daughters that they hammer you over the head with, the whole idea of life and death and elder gods and Cthulhu and things like that. So once you start paying attention, I think this movie starts to fall apart. But if you're just hanging out with some friends, having some food, just looking at some people get torn apart by some really cool creature designs, I think you'd have some fun. Like you guys said, it was pretty disappointing, but I still had a pretty fun time just looking at it, not really paying attention. I'm going to go ahead and give The Void 2 out of 5. 2.5. Sorry. 2.5 out of 5 stars.
I know we did seem to kind of hate on this movie a lot, but I do think it may be worth recommending for some people. I think a lot of people who are more genre fans will like it way, way more than we did. So if you are interested in that vibe and with movies like It Follows and The Thing, this movie is worth checking out. You may really love it because it did have some high points.
Yeah, it's if you're a fan of anything from The Mist, Silent Hill, The Thing, It Follows, just horror in general, maybe it's worth checking out, maybe not. Try it out.
Alright guys, so how'd you like the review? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Please let us know. As you can see, we're in a spring break location. It's very nice out here. But anyways, you can buy some of our really cool new merch at cafepress.com
We,
/Stubmasters.
We have some new stuff, some Supreme parody stuff.
Some
If you really want,
parodies.
if you really want to flex, if you really like the vision, if you really want to build and link fam, you can go check that out.
That's for you.
Absolutely. So, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Ethan.
And I'm John.
Have a great evening.